Test. ASMR. Sorry,
Hello, everyone. This is not live on YouTube.
You want to get their attention?
Janelle,
Yes,
do you need me to MC? I can hear you through the restream.
I'm talking to the restream.
Can you your okay? You can participate from there if you want to turn on a camera or something. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna MC.
I'm trying to figure out why it's not streaming onto YouTube.
You pressed go live.
I did.
Is it unlisted and you just can't see it? Hey, Janelle, I'm ready to start. Are we being held up by anything right now?
A second.
Just put this between us.
I don't think this one works.
It's for the live stream because it's going on YouTube at the same time.
Oh, so this one's going on to the screen.
All right, folks, we're going to get started in just a minute here. So in the meantime, we're going to have everyone introduce themselves. To the people joining us on the live stream, we do have one person in person here who's not on the camera, but we do have the camera facing our wonderful audience so you can see them all. So my name is Alan Kaplan. I'm going to my 5th and final year of software engineering. You can use he, him pronouns. In regards to research, I worked an 8-month research assistant contract at the Best Lab under Professor Andrew Maxwell, researching design sprints. I'm going to hand it off to Ariel, and then we'll go to the people on the live stream. She's speaking.
Sorry, folks. I think we're having some technical difficulties on the patio.
Yeah, just to make sure. Okay. You should be able to hear now.
Yes, I did hear. Yeah, you're good.
Can you hear me, Janelle?
I can hear you now. Yes, I can hear you.
All right, I'm going to reintroduce myself for the people joining us online right now. But like y'all just heard, my name's Alan, 5th year software engineering, he, him pronouns, 8-month research at the Best Lab, researching engineering design sprints and how people can more effectively solve problems and find solutions through a design thinking approach.
Wow, now you get it. Better be louder for me. Ariel, going into my 5th and final year of civil engineering. I just finished my 4th and final term of co-op/research, investigating autonomous shuttles and transportation matters all around. And yeah, that's about it.
Cool. Awesome. We'll hand things off to Sunil to introduce himself and the research he's done.
Hi, my name is Sunil Bisnath. I'm a professor of geomatics engineering. And for about the past 25 years, I've been working with GPS. So we're using GPS to improve how positioning works on your cell phones, determine how the continents move, improve the quality of how your trains, like GO trains, operate, and all kinds of different aspects, including autonomous vehicles.
Cool. And Paulina, if you want to introduce yourself. You might be muted. Can you remove the caption from Bergeron Center so we can see everyone's names here? You should be able to see a little microphone in the bottom left and unmute that one, Paulina. You don't see the microphone, you mean? Wait, can you speak, Sunil? Make sure it's not us. Oh, and he left. Great.
Yeah. Can you hear me still?
Oh, yeah, we hear you. Okay.
You can try pressing M if the icon doesn't work. No,
maybe check your audio settings. Make sure you're using the right audio input.
Or if you guys like, I've known Paulina for a long time. I can introduce her.
Yeah, how about you introduce Paulina, and then we'll start with some questions while she figures things out. You know, PhD doesn't mean you're good with technology.
Well, Paulina has a PhD in biology. She did some really complicated stuff that I don't understand because I'm an engineer. And she's been our lead research officer at Lassonde for, since before there was Lassonde. So Paulina guides us through a lot of the research granting and the contracting that the researchers need to do. So very specialized job, and without her, we'd all be lost.
Woo! Awesome. Thank you so much. So the first question we have for all of you folks is, what's the most recent thing you've worked on within your capacity in research? And to start things off, we'll have Ariel, our student researcher, and she'll also talk a bit about the programs that she's done research through, like USRA.
Sure. Okay. So for the first 2 summers, I was undergraduate summer research award applicant. Whatever. And I got that. So for summer 1, for summer 2, and then recently I've gotten RAY, which is research at York. Both programs have allowed me to work with transportation matters. So the most recent thing I've worked on is autonomous shuttles. Is that good?
Yeah.
Which basically is like little pods that would move around the city, pick up passengers, and solve the first last mile problem. We can go into more detail later if anybody's interested. And I've also worked on wildfire evacuations in the past, and bus rapid implementation and other projects.
So Ariel, I want to know, how did you get your research position through USRA and RAY?
That's a fantastic question, Alan. So for my first position, I was approached by one of my professors, which is how I got into research in the first place. If you don't have the opportunity to get approached by a professor, I would recommend going to their office hours. They're all super, super nice and welcoming, and are often even looking for students if that's something that you're interested in. For the next 2, I did have to approach 2 professors because they are specializing in something that I want to work on. But again, I wouldn't be intimidated by the professors at all. They're all so nice and welcoming, and I would highly recommend, even if you're not interested in research, going to their office hours and just, building that professional relationship.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Sunil, do you want to talk a bit about the research that you've been working on recently, and maybe specifically the project you've been working on without disclosing too much IP?
Sure. Well, the latest thing I worked on was at 9 o'clock this morning. So I had a research meeting with some colleagues in Italy, Germany, and 2 of my senior PhD students. And I don't know how well any of you know GPS. It's an American system. A number of countries have built similar satellite navigation systems, including the European Union. So in Europe, they have what's called Galileo, and they're still building that out. So the meeting we had this morning was to talk about a new signal that they're transmitting starting today, September 1st. They're doing a test this month. And what they're trying to do is produce a signal that will allow one to position a lot better than GPS. So rather than the few meters that you get with GPS, we can get down to about 10 centimeters with this additional signal that's coming from the European system. So we had a meeting this morning to talk about the software that we built to be able to receive the signal and then produce positions down to about 10 centimeters, a couple of inches. And of course, this applies to all kinds of solutions that you'd interact with, including, for example, the autonomous shuttles that were talked about earlier. So it's adding more precision and security to that solution. So that was the latest research meeting I had, which was this morning. So it's one of the many projects we're working on. Hi, I don't know if you can all still hear me. I don't hear anyone else speaking.
Oh, sorry, I muted the mic here. So what I want to ask is, that's awesome and super cool research. I want to know maybe a bit about how you ended up in research, what brought you there. Have you worked in the private sector at all? And yeah, a bit about that, Jazz.
Sure. Well, I grew up in Toronto, and I was didn't know what I wanted to do when I went to university. I'd love to ask the audience, how many of you knew what you want to do? I was 17 years old, had no idea what I wanted to do, just wanted to get out of high school, got to university, found something that was called the land surveying program at the university I was at, decided, okay, this is cool, I'll become a land surveyor. And then one of my professors mentioned an acronym that I'd never heard of, and said that, and I thought it was really cool. And so that was in the early 1990s, and the acronym was GPS, something that nobody had ever heard of. And to me, it sounded pretty amazing. And instead of going out after my bachelor's to work, I decided to stay and do a master's. Thought I'd learned something. By the end of the master's, thought I knew everything. Then realized I didn't know anything, and stayed for the PhD. And I when I finished, I did do a lot of work with industry at the university. I ended up going to the States and worked at a few different places. And then this opportunity came up at a new program, a geomatics engineering program at York. And this was a long time before Lassonde existed. And it was a chance to actually come back home to Canada, to Toronto. My mom was really happy. And to build a research program. So I had no intention of doing research, but that's one of the great things about university. There's so much stuff that why would we know anything about these things? So come, listen, explore, ask questions, and you never know. It might be a good fit for you, might not be a good fit for you, but what you want to do is figure out what you like and what you're good at. So that's my story.
Awesome. That's a great story to hear. And I'm sure that none of the students here will, know really what they're going to end up doing in the future, despite thinking they might know what they want to do. So it's good to hear that from you. Ariel, maybe you can share a bit about why you went into research, why you chose to go the academia route, and maybe as well, what you found that the best benefits and skills you found through that research was.
Sure. Thanks, Alan. So as I said, I was approached by a professor, and it kind of opened up this door of research that I continued with for 4 terms. It did really, open up another door for a master's degree that I might pursue. And the skills that I learned, I learned to, be really good with my time efficiency and time management, because you're kind of doing all this stuff alone. You have deadlines, but no one's actually pushing you to reach those deadlines. You have to be on top of your game all the time by yourself. It depends on your professor, really, but for me, that was the case. Also, collaboration
Hey,
skills.
Marina, you are now. Oh shit.
You're unmuted, Janelle.
Hey. Yeah, I'm not gonna like try to make this sound like an interview and tell you all the skills that I learned, but I will say that I got a lot of very niche skills that you won't get from a consulting or private company. On the other hand, I would recommend if you can get experience in both sectors, that is probably going to make you the most well-rounded, and that would be like something that I would tell myself if I was in first year right now. Look up a question.
Awesome. Yeah, we have a question from the audience. Maybe if you want to take the mic and you can come here and say it. You can leave your shoes all that.
This question is specifically for Ariel. Since you talked about like the interview, what was the interviewing process like maybe in one of the positions that you worked on?
Great question. So as I had mentioned, it's not really an interview. It was more of just a chat. We sat down in my professor's office and he offered me like a position and he thought it would be a good fit. On the other hand, I also had a coffee chat with my other professor. It's very informal. They really just want to see like what you're interested in, how they can help you reach your goals, and if you vibe kind of on the same wavelength and if you have the same like values, that's all that matters. They're honestly also like super chill. Like I wouldn't stress about it. It's not like a job interview that they have 100 applicants and they only take 2. It's a lot less stressful.
Awesome, thank you. And maybe a follow-up question as well for Sunil. What do you look for in students who are looking to do research, be it undergrad students?
What do I look for?
Or others?
Sorry.
Yeah. Which student? What skills or personality traits do you look at when trying to find student researchers?
At the undergrad level, well, I mean, students get our interest by, first getting good grades. So, we'd say, somebody understands the material, then we think that they could support grad students or research and working hard. When I'm asked, would I rather take a lazy A student or a hardworking B student? The hardworking B student always does better. So it comes down to really finding your interest. If you're interested in, as Ariel was talking about, if there's material that you're interested in or a research project that you're interested in or something that you'd like to at least try to determine if you want to be interested in it, that's when I think you really should reach out or really ask. But for me, it's, of course, having a certain amount of knowledge, but wanting to learn and wanting to work, whether it's with a team or individually, asking questions and just being curious. And that sounds easy, but everyone's busy, and everyone has a life outside of the university. So it really just comes down to that. It's pretty simple.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Sunil. I do want to emphasize something that you said. We all have heard C's get degrees, but in research, it's actually really important to get good grades just because a lot of these scholarships do have like a minimum grade that you have to reach in order to be applicable. So if this research is something that you're interested in, I would really emphasize, getting on top of your game, having a schedule. Time management is so critical. And on the other hand, as he said, the B+ average is also suffice. Just look at whatever scholarship you want to apply for, see the minimum grade and like work towards that and even above that, because grades really, really, really matter in research.
Yeah, especially for the Lassonde Undergraduate Research Award, or LURA. 60% of the determining if you're going to get the research award comes from your grades, with another 30%, I think, from your experience, and then 10% from communication. So it is overall very important that you try your grades. But believe me, I'm not a student with amazing grades, and I'm still able to get research. And if you show a passion for a field and you get close with professor and you show that you want to work in it, that they will recognize it. But it does come from reaching out, and it is very hard if you sit in the back of the class and never talk to your professor, for them to think that you want to do research. But even by speaking to them after class or wanting to have coffee chats with them, it'll definitely make you stand out compared to most other students when it comes to times to get research awards. Awesome. So we have another question here, not research directly related, but Lassonde related. So we'll pass it off to Sunil first. But what aspect of Lassonde do you really like? And especially if you've worked or studied in other institutions, what have you grown to really enjoy here?
That's a big question. I'll keep it short. So, I've worked at a few different universities in Canada and a few different universities in the States. Something that's been nice at Lassonde is that it's a new school, so we have developed our own culture, and that's really cool. I mean, I came from a Harvard Research Center prior to joining York, and when there's a really entrenched culture, it's pretty hard to change it. So it's nice to, and this applies to all of you. You guys will be, in a way, building the school, and that's really cool. So voices could be heard. There aren't just sort of set ways to do things. And we're within this great community in Toronto, and it's a very, very unique place. So the diversity is unbelievable, as all of you know, but not everywhere is like this. There's very few places like this. So it allows for a lot of different voices to speak and a lot of different voices to be heard. And that really does impact research. We have students from across the country and around the world. They learn in different ways. Their culture is different. They interact with each other in different ways. And it really makes a difference. If everything was homogeneous, we'd do things the same way. And the result of that would be repeating research. It would be not trying new things, and that limits us. So the fact that we're open to trying new things in different ways is really something that is unique and special to what we have here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I just want to see, Paulina, is your mic working now?
I don't know. Let's see. Is it?
It is working right now. Awesome.
All right.
So we'll jump back a bit. Maybe can you introduce yourself on your own and talk a bit about what you've been working on at Lassonde, especially recently?
Sure. So welcome to all the new students. We're so excited to have you here. So I'm actually representing the administrative side of Lassonde. So I represent the research support office that you see probably to your left of the building. We're on the second floor and that beautiful building you're next to. And I'm the director of research priorities and partnerships. So I have been running research programs for students, including undergraduate students, for actually over the last 7 years. Since I've been at Lassonde, I've taken on making sure that our undergraduate students have ways to get involved in research and get paid for it. So I'm excited to tell you about how you can actually do that, give you some tips and answer any questions. But yeah, so my role is really to support faculty and researchers, and that can include undergraduate students as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And so another question for you that Sunil was just answering is, I'm not sure what your experience was before coming to Lassonde, but what do you really enjoy about Lassonde? And, what do you enjoy, especially maybe compared to other institutions, maybe where you studied in the past or worked in the past? It'd be great to hear your view.
I think it's very similar along what Professor Bisnath said. It's the sense of community that Lassonde really has been able to create because we're new. and working at Lassonde has felt like being part of a larger family. I would say people really value each other. They help each other out, and it's just such a great place to work at. I think diversity certainly helps. I love coming to work, and I love Lassonde in general for its diversity. And like it was said, different points of view, people from different roads travel to get here. It allows us to have a very interesting and very welcoming community for people. I really also like the fact that we're a new school, which means we can do things maybe a little bit faster, different, more innovative than others. So the program I'm going to tell you about today, our Lura program, we were the first at York University to develop our own undergraduate summer research program. And we were the trailblazers. After us, every other faculty started thinking about how can we get involved and what can we do. So, at Lassonde, I think we have the opportunity to trailblaze new things, try new things. And the administration, the faculty, it's a supportive environment for people to do that. So I think you guys have chosen right, and I hope you guys, take the time and become part of that community as much as you can throughout your years here.
Definitely. I agree with you on so many ways. I definitely think the young aspect to our school does bring a lot of innovation. I know from my personal aspect, being able to work as a research assistant for Professor Andrew Maxwell in the BEST lab and do more meta engineering work on engineering design thinking was a great experience for me. And seeing the emphasis on entrepreneurship of the research and applications of it to the private sector is fantastic. And as well, I know we had some faculty talking earlier today, but the multidisciplinary aspect, bringing people not just from different engineering disciplines, but from other majors, even through our C4, the cross-campus capstone course, is definitely an aspect that I've really come to appreciate through my years here. And just to finish off this question, Ariel, if you can share what you really like about Lassonde.
Sure. So as some of you know, I did transfer. I did a first year in kinesiology, so I kind of have, experience in two different colleges at York. And I have to say, like, the difference is so big between those programs because I'm not trying to, downplay any program, but that program is so established and traditional, and they're really not invested in student success as Lassonde is. Everyone at Lassonde is here for you to be successful. Like, they want to encourage you and push you to be successful. And I know that kind of sounds like cliche, but I haven't come across a community that's really here for you. Anything you need at any time, they'll be here. Like, you have Zoom calls that you can hop on in at any given instance and ask whatever questions you have. Like, it's amazing. Another thing I really like about Lassonde is how receptive they are to student, not complaints, but concerns. If you have a concern, they really do take it to heart and they try to make it better and they try to improve, and they're constantly on the cycle of getting student responses and improving their programs. It passed by so fast, the 5 years that I was here, but I really do consider this place my second home, and I'm 100% sure you will too. Just, be involved, stay at the Burge for more than you need to, and you're gonna love it, trust me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ariel. And our next question that we have is, what are you interested in doing in the future, both research-wise and career-wise? And I guess we'll hand it back to Sunil to give us an answer on what he's interested in the future.
I didn't think you'd ask me that question because I've been doing this for a quarter century already. How about this as an answer? I still haven't figured out what I want to do when I grow up. And I ask my undergrad students and my grad students that all the time. Why? Because they keep changing. And I know it might be a little stressful for some of you if we keep telling you that your lives will keep changing in terms of careers and work and what you do. But those are the great opportunities. I don't know if you've already heard this too many times and it just sounds boring now, but you've got all these great opportunities. There are a lot of different things that you can do and they'll change. And I think that's where research becomes incredibly important. Having that research experience will allow you to reinvent yourselves every so many years. As you get, let's say, bored of a job, or you see a new opportunity and say, hey, can I do that? Well, you know what? I don't have the skills to do that. Well, I can learn the skills. That's what research is I think at one of the cores of research. So after 25 years in this business, I'm still figuring out what I want to do when I grow up. So we'll see. Opportunities come up. When I was your age, nobody ever heard of GPS. Now you're all talking about driverless cars. Trust me, we were supposed to have driverless cars on the streets years ago, but we don't yet. The future will not turn out the way we expect it, the way that we predicted or we propose it. So there are going to be some great opportunities and amazing things that we haven't even thought about, let's say even 5 years from now. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to what I decide to do when I grow up. And I would suggest it's a great way for all of you to look at it too.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And maybe, Polina, what are you interested in doing in the future? Are there any initiatives you'd like to bring to Lassonde?
So as I mentioned, I think working here is one of the biggest benefits is that we respond to the needs of the community, and we have the flexibility and the leadership to actually implement things. So I'll give you one example, something that we are starting this summer, and I'm really excited about this opportunity being open to everybody, which includes undergraduate students, graduate students, staff, and faculty. We're making resources available to students to start thinking about programs they want to run themselves around equity, diversity, and inclusion. So we have a pot of money that we've reserved specifically for people who want to run pilot projects that will allow our community to be more inclusive, that will allow us to bring more diverse people in and make this really change our culture to be as inclusive as possible. So if you go on our website, you can see under EDI, we have a brand new funding that's available to everybody at the Lassonde community. So, I think, my career, I love working at Lassonde. I don't see myself changing that in the near future, but I see myself, learning and reaching out in different areas as time goes on. So that's kind of what I meant by being a new school and having opportunities at the school, and that is true for staff, and that's true for students, and for faculty. We're super lucky to be in this environment that allows everybody to grow. So not a career change for me in the future, but definitely looking forward to expanding, helping to enable and expand research at Lassonde and see where we can bring our reputation even higher than what it's currently.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And next up, we'll have Ariel answer a question about what she wants to do in the future. And, as a young woman, I'm sure she knows exactly what she wants.
Absolutely not. So as I had mentioned, I was working with autonomous shuttles. I do consider myself a very opportunistic person. And as Sunil has mentioned, there's a long way to go before these driverless cars are on the roads, and I want to be a part of that transformation, and I am really looking forward to hopefully working in either a private or public company, and that's about it. I mean, if I get the opportunity to work in any sort of transportation, that's already like a big step for me, but autonomous vehicles would be chef's kiss.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we have one last question before we open up for some student Q&A. And that is, what would you tell, a first year version of yourself, coming to your new student orientation or your first week at school? What would be maybe the advice and the wisdom that you could give yourself, and hopefully our students can take from that without having to have all the pain of decades of experience to pay for such wisdom? And either of you, our wonderful staff members, can answer, and then we'll have some students come on.
The truth, maybe party a little less, but you know what? It's your time, so I shouldn't say that. Enjoy it, and I don't know if the right word is. I don't think it's not being afraid, but be open to trying things, and whether it's academic or beyond. I think a lot of the times we think about things that we'd like to do and we stop ourselves. Um, and then later on, you might say, well, I could have done that. If, so and so did it, I could have done it. So try not to hold yourselves back. Ask. When you're in class and you don't understand something, chances are the people around you don't understand it either. So what's the point of you all sitting there not understanding something? Just ask, and you'll realize that the others don't understand it either. And it just needs to be explained in a different way. Or, for example, on the research side, to say, well, I don't know about this. Well, when are you going to know about it? Now's your time to try. Now's also the time to fail. I don't mean courses, but I mean try things and they don't work out. Or try things and you say, I really don't like this. I don't want to do that. What's the harm in that? There's no harm. So for me, it's just all I could say is I would just try my best to make use of the time I had. That's what I would have told my younger self. If we wait to have enough time or money or, I don't know, patience or knowledge, when are we going to do stuff? So just have some confidence in yourselves to try things, and then recognize when you don't like something, or you're really this isn't for you, and then try the next thing. Yeah, what can it hurt?
Definitely. Even, in the Best Lab, we always say we have all these events to teach people about entrepreneurship. And if what they learn is that they hate entrepreneurship, that's an amazing lesson to have as well, because then you definitely know what you don't like. And, as much as university is about finding what you love, it's also about finding what you don't love and what you absolutely despise. So, Polina, what's some wisdom you may be able to pass on to our first year students?
I don't think I have much to add. I mean, be brave. I think that's kind of the message here. That if you want to try something, try it and reach out to people. I think that's don't be shy. Reach out to people if you're not sure about something, you need help. Try to make those connections as much as possible. And undergrad is not the end. I think sometimes we think like we have to finish this, we have to get this degree, but it's really, you guys are so young, and take the time to kind of explore and develop yourself. You really have a lot of time before you have to go get that job and start the real adult life. So don't feel like undergrad is the end. Take your time and do a co-op, or definitely get involved in research as soon as you're ready, and just be open and brave. And I don't know, party. The older, I don't if you want to, I don't think that's not a that's not a bad thing.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I'll just share really quick. And one thing I'd make sure my younger self knows is to talk to upper year students and, join the community as much as you can. If you want to get involved in, research, or you want to find internships, having connections who can not only, provide you referrals, but to just help you out with resumes, tell you, the best ways to contact, or, how to get certain awards is definitely a big benefit. If you talk to someone who got things like our undergraduate student research award or the Lassonde undergraduate research award, it'll be a big help in getting that. Do you have any advice to give our students, Ariel?
Yes, I do. I would advise myself to be more present, live in the moment, don't stress out all the time. From my 5 years, I used to live like week to week of, okay, after this week is over, it's going to be better. It's going to be better. And like, spoiler alert, it wasn't. It was just another exam and another midterm and another test and so on. So, you can't really wait for things to get better. You just have to live in the present. And if you have a test, have a test, but, still make sure to take care of yourself, your mental health, your physical health. These are the last few years that you're going to be in academia. The last few years that someone is going to tell you what to do. Well, maybe a boss will, but you know what I mean. You're going to be tested, and it's you're coming to an end of a really big era of your life. So take advantage of it. Party hard. I don't know how viable this is at York, but like live a little is what I would recommend to myself.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And so we have some time left, and I want to open the floor if any students have any questions. That we have an opportunity to ask, some awesome faculty and staff members, a couple students who've done research. So feel free to raise your hand, come up, take the mic. And any questions about research awards, applying, what is the options in computer science, in civil, in mechanical, geomatics, space, whatever it is. Yeah, totally. Do you want to come up here? Do you want to just grab the microphone? The cord's pretty long. So it can hear from pretty far.
Sorry, can everyone hear me?
This one hears from pretty far, so you can just.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, thank you. So I wanted to ask, what are some tips that you have for first years to get into any research programs in general? Sorry, did everyone hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
Unplug it. You folks get that?
So if I can there, I hear some echo.
I think you should be good now.
Okay. So, the programs that we run, so the program I mentioned, LURA and NSERC-USRA, which is the federal program equivalent, are actually very, very competitive. So they're based on your grades, they're based on your research potential, and when you apply, you compete with your fellow colleagues. So perhaps that is not the best thing for first-year students, which doesn't mean you shouldn't apply. We have had first-year students get these awards, so it does not preclude you from applying. But trying something a little bit less ambitious in your first year might be the way to go. Volunteering is definitely always an option, and kind of getting to know what your research interests are first, I think is sort of the key to explore sort of your curiosity and see where can you apply your skills, where are some of the areas that you would actually be interested in. So I would certainly encourage you to talk to professors. I think that's always a good thing to kind of look at our website, see what the professors are working on, see if you can connect with them and connect with your students too, because many of our students, we have hundreds of Lassonde students that have done research. So reach out to them and see how they were able to get into the programs. And you can look at projects. So every year we post the projects that are available. We probably have the projects from last year posted, so you can kind of get an idea what some of the projects are out there and start thinking about, what skill set you would need, how do you have to build yourself to be able to apply for those projects. So if you go on the Lassonde website under research, there's a whole section dedicated to undergraduate research, and you can find information on that page, including very detailed description of previous projects. And then in early 2022, we'll have new projects posted for everybody to see.
Yeah, definitely make sure you check out the projects that are being posted from professors, because they're actually looking for students to help them. But as well, if you're looking at just what are our professors doing, I think a lot of students, especially the ones who do research, go on our faculty page and kind of stalk all the professors. They look at what their specialized areas are. And there's never any harm from just shooting them a message and asking to connect with them and talk just a bit about what they're doing, not even for a research position. And it'll hopefully guide you in the right direction, and you'll learn more about the field just from a 15-minute chat. Does our professor on the panel have any advice in regards to the question?
Sure. I really wasn't going to add anything, but something that comes to mind is you guys are coming out of high school, and one of the big differences you're going to see is going from teachers to professors and teaching assistants, labs. Things are the environment's going to be very different. Whether you realize it or not, the labs and the tutorials will be run by TAs, teaching assistants. The teaching assistants are our grad students. So sometimes students, don't feel like they can maybe talk to a professor. They can, but you're going to be in big lectures. There might not be time before or after a lecture. You can also, outside of these sort of official channels of websites and programs, talk to your TAs, because you're going to be interacting with them a fair amount. And this is something that's very different from high school. So when you go to tutorials, when you go to labs, whether they're online, in person, whether many of your TAs will be working in these research labs, and you'll see them more. So they're more approachable. They're closer to you in age. They'll kind of look at things maybe in ways that you did because they were where you were just a couple of years ago, and they can give you a sense of what's going on in some of the labs. The volunteering is good as well. So this is again outside those official channels, and keep in mind, what do you think you would be doing in a research lab at the end of your first year? Not building an autonomous shuttle, but being part of a team that might be. And you might be looking at data, you might be just spending time talking to grad students. You want to get a feel for, hey, is this interesting to me? Do I like the environment? What does research mean? And I have a question for all of you. I know the question was about tips, but what do you all want to get out of research? It's one thing to get the academic credentials, but what do you want to get out of it? Is it a leg up on others on your CV to get a better job, or is it research to determine what it is that you want to spend your time doing at Lassonde, or what careers or what fields you want to work on when you leave? So ask questions of yourselves and others. And my question to all of you is, why are you even interested in research? What does research mean to each of you? And I'd say sort of ask yourselves that, and having that interaction with the professors, the TAs, who are the grad students in the labs doing most of the heavy lifting, or spending a little time in the lab, stopping by and even seeing what's going on. I know we're still living within the COVID restrictions, but you could see cool equipment, or just see, what does the grad researcher do? What would I spend a summer research project doing? It goes back to my previous point. It doesn't hurt to ask. You might like the answer, might not like the answer, but what harm is there in asking?
Absolutely. And just to add on, about talking with TAs and stuff, is I'm sure all of you folks have been used to distance education now, but I really suggest turning on your camera. It makes a world of a difference. It's one thing to sit at the front of the class, but it's a whole nother level to turn on your camera in a Zoom meeting. And you'll definitely stand out, because out of a 100-person lecture, you're definitely going to be one of the few. And not only will the professors love it, but you'll also get to meet a lot of students because you'll show up right on the front. Cool. Are there any other questions that we have from the audience? Yeah, totally. Come up and feel free to ask. Turn on your camera is my advice.
Hello, my name is Barwood. So the question I had is, again, I've heard this a lot. Again, I don't know how offensive the professors find it, but I've heard a lot that research in academia is like way too theoretical to have any practical applications. I know that that's kind of might be true for some other fields like social sciences, etc. But like, I'm wondering how that works in engineering. Like, how practical do you think your research is, and whether your research is actually being used in the real world?
Awesome. Thank you so much. So did you get the question? It's basically, how theoretical is the research you're doing? And yeah, does it get applied in the real world?
Well, I can take this one. I see Paulina smiling. It would be pointless if we just did theoretical work that had no impact. First of all, we're in applied science and engineering. So almost by definition, all the work we do has impact, even the theoretical work. And also, I think one of the pillars at Lassonde is that we do work that has a societal impact, and we try to connect those dots to people. So I could use my example of the work I do. Do you all think that GPS is practical? Well, of course it is, in ways you don't even know. And it's not just about driving around in your car. If the system turned off, literally the transmission lines would stop working and the lights would turn off. The banking system would stop. You couldn't use your ATM card. The stock markets wouldn't work because they're all using GPS-based timing. So some of the technologies and that we use are so intrinsically tied to our lives that we couldn't imagine them not being here. So I can't think of things being more practical. But to be able to do research, that is to be able to improve something or add to something, the theoretical background is required. It's incredibly important. Without it, all we could really say is, hey, I could paint this a different color, but you're not actually making anything new. You're not improving anything. So the concepts, if that's what you mean by the theory, are incredibly important in research. How can we make something new, or how can we make something better without fundamental research, whether it's the math, the physics, the chemistry, the biology, or all the applied research? If we take the math and apply it to new algorithms in computer science, or we take some work that was done in physics and apply it in electrical engineering for a new power system. Or for me, we take new computing developments and new computer chips and enhance the performance of the positioning system in your cell phone. They're all connected. But without having the strong theoretical background, we can't do we can't make the impacts that we want to make. So it's a continuum. Doing research is not just theory. It's theory and the application of the theory. So hopefully you won't find an undergrad or a master's student or a PhD student at Lassonde who will tell you what I'm doing has no practical implementation. They'll all tell you the complete opposite, that they're doing things for a reason. But yes, there has to be a theoretical foundation, or else we couldn't do anything new. So don't worry that research just means theory and it's not gonna impact anything. But yeah.
Cool. And a quick follow-up from our same question asker.
Yeah. So I think I didn't phrase my question properly, because what I was basically trying to say is that it definitely has, like what you say, it definitely makes a lot of sense that like pretty much every practical implementation will have some sort of theoretical background. But what I wonder is how consistently does the research in academia transform into practical applications? So, for example, if let's say for 2021, Lassonde professors published, let's say, 150 research papers. How many of them? What percentage of them? What percentage of the research in academia will actually transform into the real world? Because obviously, not all the research papers will eventually end up being applied in the real world. So I'm just wondering, what's the research output and how much does it become impractical? Like, what percentage do you think?
Yeah, so, and as well, maybe to as well add on. So yeah, how much of the research maybe gets commercialized, and on top of that, how often do you make up physical prototypes for some of the things that you're researching? And maybe Polina actually knows some statistics as our coordinator.
Sure, I can add a little bit here. So I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we bring at least half of our income that supports research comes from industrial sources, which means that industry comes to us to help solve their problems. So a lot of the projects that both the engineers and scientists are working on are the challenges that the industry is facing on. So many of our grad students are working directly with those industries.
We have the academic event, and then we can start.
Sorry. So that's one good indication. The millions of dollars that the industry invests in us, up to $5 million a year on average, to solve their problems and to use the expertise of our research teams to help solve today's problems. But to answer your question about publications, I mean, it's a long-term thing, right? So we do publish not 100, but up to 600 publications per year. And I don't have the number of the ones that get converted to actual commercial products, but they form the foundation of knowledge that is constantly used as we move forward with innovations. And I think you need both, right? You can't really think about one without the other. You need to publish the foundational knowledge to be able to apply it later. So it's a continuum in a sense. And I don't have the number of publications that get used, because that would constantly change as we go forward. But certainly we do a lot of industry type of projects in all the departments.
Yeah, and I'd add to what Paulina said. Everything she says, I completely agree with. But I think it's a great question. It's a very thoughtful question. I appreciate the question. I didn't expect a question like that. However, you're missing a key part of the equation. All of you, why are you guys here? So it's not just about the publications, and we have a good sense of how our publications are used because how many people cite them. And they're cited by other researchers, other universities, they're cited by industry, et cetera. But keep in mind, the reality for industry is that they don't publish. They don't want people to know what they're doing. So they make use of our work, but not necessarily in a transparent way because they need to keep what they do private. But the part of the equation that's been left out in this great question is all of you. What are we here doing? Yes, we're trying to create new knowledge, but we're also here to pass that knowledge on, not just through dissemination in journal papers, but through all of you. The greatest impact that I've had is the dozens of students that have gone through the lab and now work at other universities, research institutions, and most of them are working in industry. That's how we're making the work that they've done. They've written a paper and through decades of networking on a regular basis. Every, let's say, other week, I get emails from industry looking for employees. And this has been constant. If anything, it's accelerated over the last few years, and COVID hasn't put a dent in that. These are knowledge workers, so COVID doesn't have an impact. The work continues. So what's left out of that, what's missing in that equation of, the impact of publications is who writes the publications. Yes, the professor is supervising, but it's the students, the grad students that are doing that work, and sometimes undergrads that are helping them. And so the biggest part of that impact, that output, is that we're creating the workforce for industry and everyone else to hire. And to me, that's the biggest impact. What do I appreciate the most working with grad students is when they get a job and they're so happy, or they go off and, 2 weeks ago, a former PhD student became an assistant professor at a US university. And that's a wonderful thing. And it's great for his family and his kids. And it's great to be invited to weddings and see someone become a manager at a company, and for them to then call me years later looking for students to hire. Hey, do you have any students like the ones we had in our year? This really is society building. So it is, there are many facets to that equation and the impact of research. But I think the biggest one is the training that the students get to be able to go out and work in industry and government and research institutes. So please don't forget yourselves when you think about that equation.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Professor Sunil Bismuth, and of course, Paulina. We want to thank you for taking your time to come to speak to our students today, but that's all the time we have. I know you folks are living some very busy lives, especially right before our academic year is about to start. And I think all of our students want to give a big round of applause to you folks and to Ariel for being on our research panel. So thank you so much. And hopefully you'll be able to see some of these students come through your lab and other labs at Lassonde over the next few years. So feel free to head out, but thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye, everyone. Enjoy.
So today, after this, we're going to have a 90-minute break. So feel free to go grab a snack, to walk around, to chill out, to go into an air-conditioned building that's not Bergeron so we don't get in trouble. If you, we're going to have, I'm going to go pick up some barbecue dinner, kind of early dinner, late lunch at around 4 o'clock. So expect by 4:35-ish we'll be eating here in the patio. But if you want to grab a snack somewhere, either at the Williams Mall, Tim Hortons, at York Lanes, or at the Quad, 100% feel free to do so, and feel free to bug leaders if you don't know where those are, and they will help you get there. But yeah, feel free to go out, and we'll see you back for 2 awesome back-to-back events. We got our Earn Your Hard Hat and our Purpling Party. Then after that, we're going to be having our mini play plus a trivia show, and obviously our amazing movie screening, drag show, and casino games to close out the night. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask, and we hope to see you all back here at 1:30. Yeah, yeet.